Good morning. In Psalm 37 and verse 28, it says that the Lord delights in justice. In Isaiah chapter 1, it says to search for justice, because justice is not easy. There's nothing simple about it. And there are various dire warnings in the scriptures for those who set themselves up as judges but rule unjustly. So now, to first of all illustrate the principles of justice, I want to tell you a story, and then in another video I'll explain how Watchtower matches up to the principles of justice. So in 1706 thereabouts, Mr. and Mrs. Bear took a legal case against Goldilocks for entering and breaking. Now, when you go to court, you have laws such as you mustn't steal, you mustn't destroy other people's property, you're not allowed to enter someone's house illegally. And then you have rules, and they're two different things. Now, the rules govern procedures in the court. So, in order to take this case, Mr. Bear had to write out his case in triplicate. Goldilocks had one copy, the court had another, and Mr. Bear kept the original. Now, under the rules, Goldilocks had 30 days to reply, and once again she too had to write it out in triplicate. One copy went to Mr. Bear and one copy to the court. So everybody knew the basics of this case. Everybody knew the rules. Everybody knows the laws. So the judge calls Mr. and Mrs. Bear and Goldilocks into court. Sorry, I just had to adjust the light. Now, the judge comes into court, but he doesn't know either Mr. Bear or Goldilocks. And also, he has not yet made up his mind as to either the innocence or the guilt of Goldilocks, despite the fact that he has the written documents. So he's a fair idea what the case is about, but he has yet to hear evidence. Now, modern justice is based on the scriptures, which a lot of people would be surprised about. But the wisdom in the Bible gives us confidence that it comes from God. Deuteronomy chapter 1, verses 16 and 17. You must give your brothers a fair hearing and see justice done. Also it says you must be impartial in judgment. In some Bibles it says you must not be prejudiced. So the judge cannot be prejudiced. Therefore he has to follow these principles of justice. He has to hear both sides before he makes a decision. So he says to Mr. Bear, do you have any evidence for your case? So Mr. Bear says that he is a witness to the devastation caused by Goldilocks. And as evidence, he brings in the broken chair. So we have one witness and we have a piece of evidence. And the judge is happy with that. They couldn't bring in the porridge because it had gone off. So the judge made allowances for that. So he says to Goldilocks, well, what do you say in response? Now, Goldilocks is relying on another law. Mr. and Mrs. Bear were relying on stealing and illegally entering someone's property. Goldilocks is relying on a principle of law based in Genesis chapter 3. And this is where God says to Cain, where is your brother? And Cain says, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? Now in Ireland, the law is based loosely on the principle that, yes, you are your brother's keeper. In other words, if you see someone lying around in the street and in some difficulties, you are reasonably obliged to do something. You can't just walk past. So you don't have to put yourself in danger, but you must either phone the ambulance or the police for help. So Goldilocks was relying on this principle, and she said when she got to Mr. Bear's house, she was very tired and very hungry, and she didn't think she'd be able to get home. So she believed it was acceptable to take hospitality from Mr. Bear. So she entered the house, ate the porridge, and yes, she sat on the chair and it did break, but it was an accident and the chair wasn't very well made and it was going to break anyway. So you see, the problem here is that the judge has legal principles on both sides and he has to decide which one is applicable. Now, when he makes his judgment, he has to write out why he reaches either the innocence or the guilt of Goldilocks. He can't just pronounce judgment, he has to explain why, and he has to write it out so that if there's an appeal, the appeal judges can look at the reasons the first judge has given. Now, what I want to do is explain how Watchtower's judicial system does not match any of either the modern judicial principles or biblical judicial principles, and they are far way out. But I'll do that in another video because I'm running out of time, and I'll try and load it up as soon as possible so we don't lose the thread. But thank you so much for watching this morning, and take care.